If wealth was distributed based on hard work, billionaires would be women. It would be our mothers.
Yes.
If you're a hardworking, independent woman, they'll be like, "Oh, so you're strong. Oh, you must be very, very bossy. That means how are you gonna find a man? Who is gonna want to marry you?"
It's not just on you, like as a man, to make sure you are not like, harassing women or whatever it may be, perpetuating any kind of like sexism. It's also about like keeping your friends in check.
Hello, Globies. Welcome to the World Health Investigation podcast. My name is Jocelyn.
I'm Edna.
And I'm Loza.
We're three young global health professionals and your hosts for the World Health Investigation podcast.
Also known as the WHI, we will be discussing all things global health and unpacking the most controversial social and health issues,
as well as promoting new wave global health development and equity.
So, ladies, what's the tea in global health today?
What is the tea? Today I hear you're the one spilling the tea for us.
That is also what I'm saying.
We're talking about women, men, gender, the gender pay gap.
Oh,
is it real? Is it? So we're gonna address whether the gender pay gap is legit or not.
We're really getting into it. I swear, I saw Loza get very sad when you mentioned men.
What's it?
Just disclaimer.
Men.
Not everyday men. Okay, just disclaimer.
Okay.
We are not here to bash men. Okay, no. We are here to make informative discussions. Have informative discussions about gender disparities. I'm gonna start us off with a little case study. Well, very, very simplistic but straightforward case study. Okay. Very recently, a Kenyan High Court judge has declared that being a housewife is a full-time job.
Oh.
Can we just acknowledge that first of all?
Wait a minute.
Come and see. Okay.
I need to, all these degrees, I'm putting them on the side.
Never mind.
Think about being a housewife, okay?
What are you gonna do?
Yes, sir. She said being a housewife is a full-time job and should therefore attract some form of compensation. So while she's having a matrimonial distribute, her name is Theresia Matheka. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, but yes. And she has said that they're looking into having some form of compensation for housewives in Kenya.
Yeah.
I like that.
100%.
I like that because
paid care work.
It is because so many women in this world do so much work that is just not economically compensated for. Like, if wealth was distributed based on hard work, billionaires would be women. It would be our mothers.
Yes, right. Thank you, Loza.
Like, how we as young, when I remember being young, I was told, if you work hard, you play hard, you gain something. If you work hard, you'll be successful. It's like, are the hardest working people the most successful people?
No. Work smart, not hard.
So we're gonna unpack that in a little bit more detail. But before we get into that, let's get into our personal stories. We're all women.
You're in my business.
We're all young women, I suppose.
Why did you have to say it like that?
What does that mean?
What's that meant to mean?
I'll
talk to you after this.
We'll talk later. We're all young Black women, and we've experienced some form of gender disparity at some point in our careers, in our personal relationships, in our friendships, in our families, in every environment that we've been in. So I'm going to start off with any of you. Which form of gender inequality, disparity, unfairness, harassment, whatever it is that you want to tackle, have you experienced in your lifetime?
Imagine, I feel like in this very short lifetime, like you said, as you listed all those things like young, woman, black, I'm like, oh, there's a lot that has been experienced. I mean,
Start with the first one that comes
harassment.
to your mind. The first thing that gives you the ache.
Not
the ache.
not the ache. I mean, okay, we were talking about this earlier on, but we say as women, in terms of like in the workspace or in education, we get disregarded a lot. And I think also me, I present very like ditzy. A bit, I'm joking a lot. Maybe I seem unserious, but
no, you don't.
In a lot of places, no, it's true, but in a lot of places, I often find like people, before they get to know me, I get discounted a lot. Like people think I'm dumb. So if I'm like new to a class or something and we're working in a group, I'll say something. And I often find from certain demographics, they'll say, and they'll just look at me, stare at me blankly, and don't acknowledge anything I say. Yeah. And then later on, someone will repeat what I said, and they'll be like, yeah, that's a good point. Or this happens to me even with people I'm close with, where we're talking about a certain topic and I've studied it extensively. Like I have research, I've done this, I understand this topic, and I tell them, and they're like, no, you're wrong. And I'm like, why? They're like, no, someone told me this other thing that is opposite. And I say, like, no, but like, I have evidence. And they're like, I don't believe you.
It's the disregard for me. It's
just you don't get and people only respect what I have to say if I tell them my grades, or like if I have some kind of like, I always have to prove myself. Yeah, I have
to prove yourself. Yeah.
I don't want to sit here and tell you I got a first something for you to respect me.
Or if you say that you've done research on it, even then there's still like
even then people will say, no, you're wrong. You read that wrong. I said, okay. So that's one instance, at least, in terms of disregard. Just not being taken seriously.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Like I'm there with you, Loza. Like I could also think of like, it's sometimes like in these small moments, you know what I mean? But they end up like giving you this bigger pattern and theme of like, I'd just be getting disregarded a lot. Like what's going on?
You said there's like, am I crazy?
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I would say it's a lot of just like a lot of different points at work, at home, where I do feel a lot of just like responsibility expected from me. And I think sometimes it really is just because I'm a girl, I'm a woman, whatever it may be. Even as just like growing up, I feel like boys the same age as me were not expected to do the same things I was being expected to do, or to know certain things that I was expected to know. Like sometimes they would just look at me like, but you should know this. Like even at work, I do feel a lot of times of like people get almost confused when I just don't know something, or I admit that maybe I'm like confused. There's maybe like an expectation of like, I feel be on it, be like very responsible and all these different things, be on top of it, like your game.
But can I just say, Edna, you are very responsible.
Yeah, I know. But it must be
it must be because of this.
It must be this pressure you get.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Maybe that pressure as well has put me to like force myself to be like, okay, I guess I have to be super responsible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I feel like when I compare to like my male counterparts of the same age, grown in similar backgrounds, like there was not that expectation for them. It wasn't there.
I agree with you so much, because I think we went opposite ways, where you said, okay, let me embrace the responsibility. And I remember my whole life I was rebelling against it. I was like, I'm not going to learn how to do anything. I even decided I'm not going to learn how to cook because they expect me to. And then here I am at 23 starving, but it's okay. I'm see patriarchy winning. But I agree, it's true. It's true. Like you're expected to be so much more responsible. Well, the boys are like, they'll be boys.
The boys, like people just understand, like, oh, okay, but they're just boys, so it's like let's just let go.
Yeah. I think it's interesting how you say, and like you touch on the responsibility bit, and I feel like as women, it's like you're expected to have it all together, but you're still dismissed. You're still like, they expect a lot from you. Like a lot is expected of you. You have to look good. You have to look pretty. Like your beauty is your currency. You have to look good. You have to be smart. Especially nowadays, you have to be smart. Now you also have to be somehow independent. Otherwise, if you're a housewife, then people may look down upon you. Whereas I'm not saying that it's wrong to be a housewife. Like, hello, if I could, I would.
No, that's too hard.
But I'm like you almost like if you're a housewife, like, oh, so you took the easy way out.
Yeah, people think you're just sitting there doing nothing.
You're
You're
unambitious.
chilling. You're unambitious. If you're a hardworking, independent woman, they'll be like, oh, so you're strong. Oh, you must be very, very bossy. That means how are we gonna find a man? Who's gonna want to marry you?
How are you going to find a man?
Anyways, that's just me touching on a few things. I want to say my personal example, right? I'm gonna tell you guys what I experienced, right? So I remember going back to Cameroon, my lovely and we didn't have a printer at home because our printer broke down, so I had to go outside. So I had to buy basically go somewhere to pay for my printer. And this guy was like, oh, I'm gonna give you this printing service for free if you tell me your name. Obviously, he was trying to make a move, right? And I was like, I'm not even like having the time of it. And then he says, so tell me more about yourself. What do you do? What do you study? I presume you study art. Like, you're very beautiful. You sound like you're a very artistic person. Like, women don't really do science like that or anything so technical. So he literally said this word for word,
bar for bar.
This is me at 17. Like,
why are you being strange?
Why are you being strange?
Who asked for
who asked you? It's the fact that I was minding my business, trying to print. So I was in a hurry as well because I had to print this very important document. And this man won't stop talking, telling me about how he thinks, how he knows. He knows that women are very artistic and caring, and we don't do science. And this was me doing IB biology higher level and chemistry higher level. Like, are you dumb?
No.
Are you mad? Have you lost your mind?
Anyways. And now look at you in applied medical sciences and epidemiology.
Exactly.
And it's just like there's been so many instances where it's almost like when I go there, like, and not a lot is expected. The most expected of me, right, is okay. When will you marry? When will you know how to make your traditional dishes? You know, Jocelyn, you know, me at your age, I remember being told at your age, at the age of 14.
I get told that
so many times. I already knew how to make fufu and eru. At your age, I already knew how to make all the traditional dishes. In fact, I was taking care of the whole household. Me when I was 14. By myself.
I don't want that trauma.
Look at you. Look at you. Just look at yourself. Are you proud?
What can you do?
What can you do? Nothing.
What is your book gonna get you?
You're lazy. All you know how to do is book. All you know is book.
Oh my goodness.
It do be like that. It do be like that.
No, this is clearly very chaotic. Like just a combination of like lots of what you said, what I said, and just what you said. Clearly, it's like what's expected of women is just a bit crazy.
It's really a bit crazy. That's why I'm not sure where to take this conversation, because there's on one side there's like healthcare, which we're gonna touch on later on. There's family. There's relationships, there's dating, there's everything that come together, which eventually affect a woman's career and her career's life choices. Which leads me on to my next point now about some statistics, is that the health and social care sector is one of the largest and fastest growing employment sectors in the world, particularly for women. And women provide essential health and care services for around 5 billion people and contribute in the US particularly over $3 trillion annually in global health. That's a lot
of money.
And half of it comes from unpaid work, by the way. Just to drop that there. And now, just to give you like this statistic that really like struck me was that women comprised nearly 70% of the global health sector, whereas it is estimated that they only hold 25% of senior leadership roles.
It's not making sense. That's a big discrepancy right there.
You get.
Because okay, if let's just assume that we go by what society has imposed on women, right? Like we're nurturing, we're caring. Yes, we will do healthcare. Even in this healthcare sector, which is majority women, the leadership is done by men. The senior roles is run by men. Now we're gonna touch on why that's the case a bit later, but let's just kind of like dissimulate and just unpack why this is.
Why it is. I mean, I think there's so many reasons. I think we touched upon it like in the fertility episode, in the first episode. But workplaces are not so welcoming to women in terms of, for example, if they want to start a family. They're kind of forced to choose between one. I've seen it like for personal examples. I know people in my family that were in healthcare, that once they had children, it became so, it was very unwelcoming. Like the environment was very unwelcoming towards this person. At each stage, balancing raising a child and working was made very difficult. From management, there was very little understanding of this, to the point where they had to quit. And they said this happened not only to them, but other women that they worked with. And what they saw was the same people that they trained with in the university, they saw the men advance and keep going because they had very little family responsibilities. They could leave the kids with the wife, do whatever. And they got their further qualifications, they became the bosses. And actually they came back to these women that had that burden of also raising a family. And they would come to them and say, we did the same thing. Why are you not able to have these qualifications? Why are you not able to work the same hours? And so because of this, a lot of women were kind of, even if they had that desire to work and progress into leadership roles, they were pushed out because the environment was so unwelcoming and it was so hostile. That's the word.
Yeah.
Hostile.
Yes. Hostile.
Yeah.
No, I'm glad you brought up like the environment itself, even in healthcare where it's like usually quite straightforward, because I know, for example, as well in Zimbabwe, a lot of the times, when people are training to become like midwives or nurses or whatever, obviously they still have to answer to some kind of like senior doctor or whatever, and that tends to be a man. And there are many cases of like sexual harassment. And the men that are in charge can be very horrible. So if the workplace, the environment itself cannot become like a danger, a threat to you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's again that thing of like, you may want to go very far in life, but the place itself is dangerous for you to be in.
A lot of like medical students that are women, the senior would expect certain things from them. And if they don't, they will fail them or they won't give them a certain grade. And so they will feel so uncomfortable, they'll leave.
Yeah.
And then here you are losing women because of, men that are in higher positions that are taking advantage of women.
Not only are we being completely inequitable, but we're also missing out on very, 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 very strong, competent expertise.
Exactly. Great minds. Great minds that could contribute so much.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll also just add, I also feel like sometimes even the women that make it to these top leadership positions, once you do make it there, I feel like you're under such a magnifying glass. Everyone is watching your every move. And I feel that's another thing that can end up making women leave those positions or not want to go there. Or once they're there, they'll quickly get like removed from that position if they make mistakes.
Was it not Chimamanda? I remember Chimamanda said that the higher up you go in positions, the more men there are, the fewer women there are.
I don't know if it's her, but it's true.
So now we're going to get into a more of like a problem statement. So we've seen that gender analysis in global health has primarily focused on the point of service delivery and quality of care. And we've almost seen women as care recipients, receiving care, like women's health, reproductive health, receiving health, rather than it has largely ignored the fact that women are not only recipients of healthcare, but are also primary drivers of health globally. So the women who run healthcare systems do not have an equal say with men in terms of their design and the delivery. And these significant challenges have been linked to healthcare system inefficiencies, which in fact impact the healthcare worker training and supply pipeline, as well as recruitment, deployment, retention, attrition, and generally contribute to healthcare imbalances between both the formal and informal healthcare workers, right? And as a result, women in the healthcare workforce are largely being clustered into lower status and underpaid jobs. And healthcare systems eventually lose female talent and perspectives, as well as morale. So my next question is, what do you think is the solution to gender, to these issues, like just these gender disparities in that, particularly in the workspace? What do you think should be done to address this?
Ooh, what a big question.
A big question. A big question.
What would, before we even like think about what should be done to address it, what change would you like to see?
Say, for example, for the examples we used, setting up accountability mechanisms. So if there is, sexual harassment that is driving women out of these positions, a lot of the times these men are protected by other men that are around them. So holding mechanisms where, there's maybe an external evaluator that that doesn't have a relationship with that certain man that has committed this act. And so setting these up to protect women from these predators and acknowledging it too. I think a lot of people just deny that it even exists. To pretend that everything's fine. We don't do that here. But I think that's one way.
No, I agree. Definitely, we need those like accountability mechanisms. For me, when I think more workspace and let's say women being in leadership positions, excuse me, or just women being in the workplace in general, I feel like it is still one of those things where the burden on getting to equality and pushing ourselves to being girl bosses and all these things is on us women. It's still on us. Like the world makes it seem like, if you keep at it, you can break the glass ceiling. But I'm also like, where is the space there for men to also be part of that? I think we can also try to think about like, where can the men be involved in this?
Yes. I completely agree with you, because if you look at most gender conferences, gender events, it's majority female. But you see the room will be full with 80% women. Maybe some men will come and support, but
and then it becomes an echo chamber. We're just talking about something and we're all agreeing, okay. But then where's the source of the problem? Where are they?
Yes,
exactly.
They're not in the conversation. There's no point. We can't solve it.
Exactly. We can sit here in a room and try to think of like strategies and all these different things. But if the boss at the top there is still a man and they disagree.
Yeah, well then what?
Then what?
We'll just be looking at each other.
Yeah, exactly. We can
Now it's funny how you touched on the fact that yes, we need as much male involvement as possible. And the problem is there's still a lot of men that don't even agree with the principles behind gender equality. So we need to unpack the people that are coming for the feminists, the feminazis, the femi whatever, that hate the name feminazis,
feminism.
The spirit of
the things I've heard, the things I've been called.
How do we, like, to them, we're saying complete nonsense. To them, it's like the gender pay gap is not even real. Now let's address that right now. Is the gender pay gap real? Does it exist?
Tell us, Jocelyn.
In my opinion, yes. It feels like it does.
It feels
but
like
I know there's some people who think it doesn't.
It's a myth, guys.
It's a myth.
I was joking.
To a lot of people, it's a myth. So that's why I'm going to unpack that today, So the unadjusted pay gaps in health and social care, I found a study that has shown that there are in fact unadjusted pay gaps in health and social care. which were estimated in about 26% of high income countries and 29% in upper middle income countries, right? And now we're going to talk about the gender pay gap in terms of equal pay. Now, equal pay refers to men and women performing the same role and receiving the same pay, that is equal pay for equal work of value. So in global health, there is limited evidence on the gender pay gap, because not just that there are not enough papers, there's not enough information about it. There's information about it, but there's not enough information in both particularly in lower and middle income countries, because a lot of the women that would normally participate in these studies the women that are affected would not participate in these type of studies. It's very difficult to track such information, right? And so but however, in the US, a recent survey of about 65,000 physicians in the US revealed that women doctors earn an average of 27.7% less than their male counterparts in 2017, which is a total average. That doesn't sound like a lot, but on average, annually, that is $105,000 less in a year.
105,000.
Human?
Yes.
No one can do that money.
Without that money. Oh, now, one study from Australia also found that the average gender pay gap is around 16.7%. And so even in health sectors where women play a larger role, such as in dentistry, they continue to earn less than their male counterparts. And recent studies suggest that the gender pay gap in physician salaries persists even after controlling for specialty, practice type, and hours worked. Because I've heard a lot of you say that, they don't even mention the demographics. Yep. It's between social economic factors that affect it. It's because, listen.
No, they'll even say, it's not our fault women choose careers that pay less, so we choose them. It's accounted for. Now what?
It's accounted for. The only problem now is that the current research that we have does not include every single country. That is the major issue. It doesn't take away from the fact that there are disparities when it comes to pay in health, not just in healthcare, but in other sectors as well. So a lot of companies are now being encouraged to publish those statistics. Publish the salaries for men and women.
I know they're shaking in their boots.
Right now. Do it
right now.
Publish those salaries, publish the pay, publish the compensations, publish the promotions.
Ooh.
Publish those promotions. And I mean it.
I mean it now.
It's really like, show me right now.
Show me right now. Because if the problem is that if there's not enough data, it's very difficult to gather high quality research on it. And there's not high quality research on it. But the papers that we've seen have identified some form of gap, right? Now, what that means, different stories.
Yeah. I just wanted to pick up on your point around like how I think the stats you're talking about show higher income countries and upper, is that it?
High income countries.
High income countries, there we go, just them.
That wasn't money.
And it was that, sometimes is it harder to just include lower to middle income countries because of how varied the like work there is. Because I can say, for example, in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of like, there's formal employment and then there's like informal employment. And so like definitely I think there are cases where it's like we can count the people who are employed formally, but we don't even know about like the informal sector there, like people who are just like street vendors, people who just don't know. We don't know, we have no way of tracking, so it could even be worse.
The big problem is that in a lot of low-income countries, there's a large informal sector, which is a very difficult outcome measure. It's very difficult to measure pay, even in agricultural work, which is what a lot of women do. Even in things like sewing. If you're working for a sewing company, a lot of women do that. I know in Cameroon, working for sewing companies or work even in a restaurant. Sometimes it's very difficult to monitor that because they Yeah,
it's not like standardized.
It's not standardized. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. It's not standardized.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
100%.
So I think even from this research, it could even be worse
It could
in these
even be
countries,
worse.
but it exists. I hope we've established that now.
Yeah.
It's not because women choose lower paying careers. It would be the same career.
And then they're gonna be, and I know. So I need to just address
Let it out.
every single thing that I've heard people say, right?
Yes.
Oh, women are naturally nurturing. Women are naturally caring. Women don't want to take senior roles. Women don't want to take leadership roles. As a matter of fact, women love being nurses. That's why we don't have as many male nurses. Let's just address the fact that for a very, 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 very long period of time, medicine was a male-only profession.
Amen.
They weren't even allowed.
They weren't even
doctors.
Were you even allowed to go to the university?
No.
To study?
They'll say you're not allowed here, please.
Yeah.
UCL, the uni that I went to was the first to offer a medical school for women.
What year? Probably like yesterday.
Okay, that was not long ago.
Not long ago.
And the best
didn't vote until last week. Like, come on.
Until last week.
No, in Switzerland, it was like the 70s. So.
True.
Yeah.
Switzerland was a bit late. Some places were the 90s. Let's not lie.
Yeah. And it's more like, so for women for a long time, like the best way for women to get into healthcare was through nursing.
Yeah.
You become a nurse, then you become a doctor. That's how it was for a long period of time. And that's why even today, let's say if you have a mom that's a nurse and you have a daughter, your daughter is more likely to become a nurse as well, because you're going to pass that. You kind of want to pass that on to her. Now, does that mean that women don't want senior leadership roles, and also there's been this has been this like, so obviously this societal patriarchal notion that yes, men can't be doing nursing because men are providers.
Yeah, they're not caring. Yeah, they're not a whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my uncle was a great nurse.
Amen.
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, you know what I find funny though, what you said, I've heard it a lot of like women are just naturally caring. You guys don't want this. And I always hear men are telling it to women and we're telling them, no, actually, this is what I want. They're like, no. I know as a man what
you want.
Me personally,
I'm sitting here like, Sophie, I don't know what I want. Yeah. It's you that's going to tell me what I want. I find it ridiculous, but I hear it a lot. And at this point, I laugh.
100%. For me, I'm like, you know what? Let's say we even did a survey of all the women in the world and we find somehow concrete evidence that they tend to be more caring than men. That does not mean men are not caring people.
Right.
That should not be an excuse.
It doesn't mean that men are incapable of caring.
It's not like men are incapable of caring. And this is where there's also the whole social aspect to it, because we have these gender roles that we have defined and we've just allowed it to be like, yes, women tend to be the more caring ones. They nurture for the children, The men is not expected to change diapers and all these things. I know some men do. I'm not coming for you. But it's like, I'm not gonna congratulate you. You should be getting an award because
that's your child.
You should care for your child. You know, it's for things like that where we set this expectation of like women tend to be the more caring ones,
right?
And men are not, and therefore that justifies the fact that it's okay that women stay in these like lower paying jobs,
right?
And they do care well.
Yeah.
But also being caring and nurturing is a good quality for a leader.
Exactly.
And why do we want leaders to be caring? You want someone they say men are logical and that's all you need. No, sometimes you need caring people.
You need a caring leader. You need, for us, I've seen a lot of these psychometric tests, profiling tests, that highly suggest that for you to be a good leader, you need to have a certain level of situational judgment skills. You need to have that emotional intelligence rather than just having a high IQ. Emotional intelligence is equally as important. It's key. Because what's the point of you having a very successful company if everybody hates you?
Yeah, if everyone is miserable.
They don't like you.
Suffering.
No, but guys, it happens a lot. I've heard stories of people where it's like they literally just lost someone and they need to go to a funeral or something. They are telling this to their manager, but the manager's kind of looking back at them like, But so will you be back next week or what? Yeah. Like, what are you...
So when should I log you in for?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
That's not the time.
Yeah. And finally, with this gender pay gap thing, let's also consider other career factors, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that women do eventually have children. A lot of women do take the option to have children eventually, which affects their career. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of men say, yes, you know, nature has not been in your favor. I'm sorry.
This sucks to suck.
Nature has not been in your favor. But it's like, are the women having children by themselves? I just want to know, like, when I decide to have, I mean, nowadays there is IVF and all that stuff. Yeah. But let's speak generally for a lot of people. Do I decide to impregnate
myself?
No, I'm not a plant. I can't do that.
As in
I can't do asexual reproduction.
Bacteria.
That's not I.
No, literally.
It takes two.
Like, it's a family. You're still a father. You still need to take care of the kid
that you brought into this world.
That you participated in.
And that's the major issue. Is the fact that you right now, right? We are young peoples. I keep repeating that we're young because obviously there are different demographic factors such as age that affect your career prospects, right? Right now, we are young. You could have a male counterpart doing the same course as you, starting the same career as you. You guys have equal pay, right? As you develop into your career, let's say you have children. Let's say, for example, I'm gonna use let's say me, for example, right? I start off equal pay as someone that also studied epidemiology. We both did the same course, start off the same. As we develop, let's say at the age of, my late 20s or early 30s, I decided to have children. Oh, now I have to take like 2-3 years out to take care of my children and nurture them and stuff like that. Now, I decide that's if I have one child. Let's assume I have 2 children or maybe 3 children because life happens. Now I have to take care of those 2 children or those 3 children. And that's more and more years taken out of my time. Yeah. My male counterpart eventually that didn't have to worry about, didn't have to take time out, didn't have to take parental leave or whatever, progresses and continues. Now I come back, maybe as a married woman, as a mother, how am I treated differently? My pay, my career progression that was initially very, very steep becomes stagnant or even on the downfall.
Yep.
That sometimes is the reason why there is unequal pay between men and women that have had the same career aspirations.
This is backed by studies and everything where, if you take a couple years out to raise that kid and you come back, I mean, first of all, there's explain that gap in your CV. And most of them don't even accept that I was raising a child, a human being.
As a valid reason.
Exactly.
Do you understand that even like the fact raising children can be worse than managing a company?
Exactly. I'm a strong believer. That should be in your CV and it should count because I think you gain so many skills from that.
So many skills. Imagine having a company with unwilling participants. The children are not participating in your communication. You cannot report to HR. You cannot report to anybody. You have a whole family to run. Do you think it's easy?
You all think that was for fun. You think that was a holiday.
Yeah. They'll just decide to cry. They'll be like, you're making my life so difficult. They'll be like, my other shoe. I can't find my other shoe. It's the end of the world.
The end of the world.
The middle of my back is itching. I don't feel like eating today. I have lost weight. Who knows? I may have caught a virus. I may just be dying. And you have to take care of that child because it's your responsibility. Like, they tell me I'm useless. Fam.
And this is why when you're talking about housewives being compensated, I'm here for this. That is a job. And you should acknowledge it.
It is work because I feel like in my conversations with like just various men with like just various mindsets, there is, you would be surprised, even people our age, there is still this mindset of yes, I would expect my wife to be like ambitious and have a career and be independent as we want.
Yeah.
But she must also come back home and cook.
Yes.
You better have cooked a meal.
You know what is funny?
You better take care of the household, but also be a billionaire.
You know what is funny? Nowadays, yeah, I've seen a lot of these men that are expecting the care and nurture of women in the 70s with the ambition of the 2022 woman. They're expecting like, oh, you to behave as being as submissive and nurturing and kind. But no. You're also going to pay your bills.
Yeah. You're going bills though.
Or it's like, why? Like, if you're not advancing your career, it's like, babes, you're kind of like lagging.
What's going on? I want a strong, independent woman. I want a woman, an ambitious woman that is funny and that also looks very good after having 4 children with a flat stomach.
I'm a high value man.
High
value.
Oh, let's not talk about the high value.
What do you bring to the table?
Oh my!
I'm breaking your table first.
Now that you've mentioned, let's just unpack now this whole value. No,
what is value?
Value.
This one is really touching us.
Let's unpack. I think we've now. Now we're gonna get into more personal things, the dating scene, because dating and marriage are factors that affect healthcare. That they come into play eventually, right? Definitely. This whole idea behind a high value man or a high value woman. Can we just, before we get into the topic, let's just define. Can we, like Loza, Edna, can you any of you like define for our fellow Globies what is a high value man, please?
Man, girl. The fact that we have a definition, it's just, I roll my eyes.
What is to describe a high value man? Of course, this is quite an American term. I've seen a lot of Americans.
Yeah, from what I've heard, a high value man has a high paying career.
6 figures.
Just 6 figures.
8 figures.
No, most of them don't have that, so they don't say that.
But 6 figures minimum.
Minimum. You know, he owns a car, maybe he owns a house, he's making investments. As he grows older, his value only increases, unlike women.
Apparently.
But that's the definition. I didn't make it. That is, and so he also deserves a high value woman.
Yes, on this high value man, Lola said, the older he gets, the more valuable he becomes.
He's making more money.
He has businesses, and he doesn't need to be as attractive. He needs to just
no.
He can be ugly. It's okay.
Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about that. He has money.
He needs to have. Whereas the woman, on the other hand, as she gets older, her expiry date continues. The moment you reach 30, you have expired.
You hit 30.
You hit 30. If you have a child from a previous marriage or something, oh gosh, your value has gone all the way down.
You're
finished.
So thank you for your definition. Very, very well described. How does that relate to our topic behind gender inequality? The people that have even come up with this definition in the first place have been the ones that have bashed single mothers. That have bashed women, saying that, we as high value men, we cannot even look at these unwanted, past the age of 30 single mothers that happen to be so unwanted and undesired by society.
But imagine bashing the parent that stayed to take care of the kid.
Exactly.
How are you gonna bash the one that actually did?
I don't even know what to begin with that one.
No logic, just vibes.
So now I've heard a lot of women say, "Oh, I want to be a high value woman because I'm." Do you want me to be? Can I also be a high value? What is a high value woman? That the problem is that a high value woman is not necessarily the one that has money.
That's what I mean, with this high value woman thing, right? That is the thing. It's like from the men who talk about being high value men, they have a certain definition of what a high value woman is that will match their high valueness.
Yes.
Whereas I feel like in the women's camp, there is some idea of like what a high value woman can be, but it doesn't necessarily match.
It doesn't match
the one these high value men have. Because high value men are definitely on the side of you must be able to do everything and you must almost be like complementary to me.
Exactly.
Your job career, that's fine, but understand that I have 6 figures and I need you to do
I have 6 figures and I'm a very busy man. I don't have time
I'm burning it to the ground.
I don't have time for all this nurturing and kind stuff that you people do.
That's your job.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be a complete douchebag because I have money.
Mm-hmm. And I'm making investments. I'm busy making investments for our future. Like, don't stress me with these children.
These children that I had with you, by the way.
Why do you even want children if you don't want to look at them, man?
Yeah.
But they're the same ones that want so many children. They want the woman to give birth to so many children. Yeah. So that leads me on to my next point about how now a lot of women have kind of been bashed down or shamed for being single mothers or for being for having children at an early age or a young age or even an older age.
Old age, yeah, you can't.
And now have now tried to embody the feminine energy to attract the high value man.
Man.
Yes. Yes.
Now, a lot of women, now that they've heard, the men they don't want us. They don't want the bossy woman. Now I have to be feminine. Now I have to turn on my feminine. Now I have to be bossy, but not too bossy. I have to be successful, but not too successful. I have to be ambitious, but not too ambitious.
Otherwise, you will threaten the man.
Otherwise, I will never get married. Otherwise, I will be single and alone forever.
Is the conclusion, basically.
That's the conclusion.
If you choose to believe these definitions of what a high value man is and what a high value woman is.
Just ignore them though, I'm sorry. But...
It is your choice to believe it or not.
Let's unpack what this whole channel. I've seen a lot of like videos around, channeling your feminine energy and how to.
There's like feminine coaches now.
Yeah.
You know how to be a woman. Like, I'm already a woman, leave me alone.
But the thing is, I feel like there's even different like degrees of them.
Absolutely.
Like I know there'll be the pick-me's. So there'll be the women who will be more like channel your female energy so that you can get a man, basically.
Yeah, or attract the high value man.
Yeah, or attract the high value man.
Then there can also be a camp where it's more about, okay, don't think about the men, don't think about masculine energy, embrace the feminine energy. You can channel into this one and that one. In your career, you can channel into this energy, be this goddess, be this da-da-da. There's that side of it too, which is not on the men, but is, something.
Yeah. Yes, I've seen them. Some of them are actually quite positive, like how to embrace your feminine self, which can come from a good perspective. But my problem comes when it is done in order to address the men. I'm sorry, I do not want my life to be centered around men.
No.
As in, imagine.
I don't. I want to exist. I am a woman as I am. I have traits just like everybody has. Even as a woman, you can have some masculine traits as well, and what that means is different for everybody.
Exactly, like it's just us that put categories on it. They're just traits.
I've seen people be like, there's like a male the male hormones make you more dominant and give you those leadership skills. Like the male hormone makes you more assertive, whereas the female hormone is more, kind and understanding and nurturing.
That sounds like science. What the heck?
It's like eugenics, but for like gender.
Right? It's weird.
Yeah.
No, it's getting weird out here. And we have multiple hormones, and men have estrogen, and women have testosterone. I don't get what. It don't make sense.
I'm sorry. I'm not.
That's my science.
I'm not. Now, what do you think about like women that try to make themselves more masculine in order to be respected? Like, I really understand how they feel, but how can we address that?
100%. Like, that's the first thing that came to my mind when you're talking about like the masculine traits, feminine traits, and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, divide them however you want them to divide them. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But I do think we know of these typical masculine traits. So like, let's say being like very like assertive and da 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 da. Those are usually associated with men. But then when women take on those kind of traits, well, not take them on, it could just be a trait that they also have. It's great to be an assertive person. You need that.
You need it.
But when it's a woman, she is perceived as being very I don't want to.
I don't know what the word is, but y'all know what the word is.
Yeah, you know the word.
The B word.
The B.
Yeah.
She's conceived to be a B.
Yeah. And we hear this so much, like women, female bosses are horrible. You don't want one. I used to hear that so much growing up. Where like if you have a boss that's a woman, she's gonna make your life horrible and everything. And when I worked, majority of my bosses were women, and I loved them.
Same.
I loved them.
That's why I feel like all the female bosses that I've had, I love them.
They're great. I said, where are the evil ones y'all talking about?
I haven't seen any evil bossy and B word type of boss.
Literally, all my managers have come across so far that are women. I'm like, I need to learn how to do that. Like, I didn't know it was possible for like a woman to like be in this way, and it's like normal. You know what I mean? I'm like, I could learn from you. In fact,
and all the time they're very understanding as well, and they have that balance between being assertive and being understanding. Exactly. You can even tell her like, okay, you know, right now I'm currently experiencing this, and she would be like, I understand.
Yes.
Well, sometimes with a male boss, it can like you kind of have to pick your words a bit. You know, you don't want to say too much because
they will just look at you like, and then. And so what did you do what you were meant to do?
Good for you.
Like, can we get the job done though?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I get into the final point.
Final point.
That women tend to face now sexual harassment.
Okay.
Harassment at the workplace, in public, anywhere that's a very, very common problem. A lot of women, when they get into the workspace, I've seen this in many places, even in I'm not going to state the names, large, big, respectable organizations where women get asked to do favors to get an internship. I've seen that before. I'm not going to name any names, but I've seen it.
Whoever you are, you know who you are.
You know who you are. But women get asked for very, very they get put in very, very uncomfortable positions in order for them to progress in their careers, not just in healthcare, in social care, in the creative industry, that's a complete entertainment industry, in so many industries, we've seen it. And that's why a lot of women, like, it's hard for them to have that career progression or to be taken seriously.
Yeah. No, imagine even like the toll it has on mental health. You had every step you take when you're faced with this. I don't know, it's just easy to give up.
It's easy to give up, and it's like, again, as we touched on with, like, let's say the example of like the nurses and the story that Loza provided. It's again a case of like, you may really want to do the most for your career and stuff like that, but you have to be aware that you can't trust everyone. I think that's where it ends up being the most like dangerous and threatening. It's like, you think you're in the workplace, you think you're somewhere professional and and then someone makes a move on you and you're probably just left there like flabbergasted. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like you're not safe.
You don't feel safe there.
No.
You're not. And that's eventually that's why a lot of women that's why you kind of lose that confidence in yourself as well. You almost feel like there's this block, especially if your boss is that person. Now that's a horrible situation to be in. If your boss is sexually harassing you, that is a very, very, very horrible situation to be in. But the reason why we're talking about it is because it still happens.
It happens, and we all know stories.
Like I'm telling you, if you're a male counterpart or whatever, you ask any of your female friends, they will tell you about one time they have experienced some form of sexual harassment.
Yeah, isn't the statistic, just off the top of my head, isn't it like 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 women has experienced some form of sexual harassment?
Some form of sexual harassment.
And of course, sexual harassment is like on a scale, like it's not just one thing.
One thing. It's not always like hardcore rape and screaming. No, it's even the advances, the unwanted advances, unsolicited.
Right? I mean, even in the streets, like I stay fearing for my life. Like the amount of times I've been followed, even in this safe Geneva, last week someone was following me on a bicycle. I was literally running to my home.
Yeah.
And it's, like you don't even feel safe existing and walking outside.
Like having to check what you wear so you don't
Right?
get misperceived. Like you want to be perceived in the right way. You also need to sometimes not just like to address sexual harassment. Like me personally, I always have to like check myself, like how am I dressing? I want to dress the way I am, but I also don't want to give the wrong impression, or I don't want to give off that, I don't want to attract those kinds of people. But it's like it's almost becoming internalized, that internalized misogyny that a lot of women face, and eventually kind of like, oh, even if you cover up, like you cover up, but you still get catcalled.
Oh yeah, they don't care.
Yeah. And I want to also just add that, it's not just limited to the kind of sexual harassment you can face in the workplace, let's say whatever organization you're working. I've also seen cases where in global health, certain global health organizations or humanitarian organizations, where they have reports of their workers harassing people they deliver aid to. People who are working in refugee camps, they're coming here as, I don't want to put any names on blast, but it's like, they have some of their workers allegedly working in refugee camps and they're harassing refugees. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Like, that cannot happen. In a global health space, we can't let that happen.
Unacceptable. What do you mean?
Global health, do no harm.
I was just going to say, do no harm. And instead of even preventing the harm that exists, they're creating more problems.
They're creating more problems.
They're creating more trauma.
More trauma, and even like less trust in some of like our institutions and organizations.
Yeah.
Yes, and that kind of makes me think, like I've also heard a lot of men be like, well, yeah, I don't do those things. Like I don't ever see women, go through that. Like they don't understand. They say, oh, I don't think like that. I'm respectful to women. I love women. I respect women. Which is, I'm not saying you don't, but I think that even as a man, you do need to understand your male privilege. Understand that you do have male privilege, and there are things that you can actually do about it, like speaking up. Like that joke that your boy made that happened to be funny, that was bashing down a woman, correct him. Avoid the B word. Avoid slut shaming. Those are microaggressions. Those are things that are micro, but eventually they contribute
to
the bigger long-term consequences. You're contributing to someone else's traumatic experiences. So by you not saying anything or doing anything, you are contributing to that. So even things like, like you go on a date and the waiter would not even acknowledge the woman. Like I've experienced this so many times. Like you go on a date and the waiter, I don't know, they don't mean it in a bad way, but they just happen to be invisible.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, like, okay, I don't want to get too much into the patriarchy and stuff like that, and we definitely need to address the men, but I also just want to address the women who perpetuate patriarchy too. It's not just men who are the ones perpetuating patriarchy. So for me, it's still in the form of, let's say, for example, even women sometimes, I've heard cases where women, they'll be driving and then they make a joke like, aha, that person must be a woman who's driving. Like when someone makes a mistake. And you're like, how can you as a woman even make that kind of a joke?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it's great that you mentioned the little jokes as well. Those are microaggressions. Like it points to a lot.
Yeah.
Even like, the culture of like our wording and everything. Of course, it positions women as like the weaker ones and the men are the stronger ones. But no, there's a lot in language because someone that is violent against women doesn't start immediately with violence. It's the way, it's the jokes they make, it's the way they communicate about women that will tell you. And we've seen instances of like men that ended up killing women or being aggressive towards women. Their friends will say, actually they were a bit creepy. Maybe women did say women did complain about them, but they said, oh, but he's just like that. Until he does something violent.
No, that's why just now also like your point about like it's not just on you, like as a man, to make sure you are not like, harassing women or whatever may be, perpetuating any kind of like sexism. It's also about like keeping your friends in check.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Your silence can be violent. Like
Oh yeah,
really need to
100%.
hold your friends accountable, and they take you more seriously than they would.
Yes, that's the thing. Like, we are all women here
Unfortunately.
speaking, but unfortunately, men listen to more men. Like, men listen more when other men speak.
Yeah.
Use
Use that privilege.
privilege.
If you're about it.
Yeah.
Don't just say, "Oh, if it was my sister," or "if it was my mother."
Yeah, no, it's just because someone is a human. That's it. Like,
yeah,
It's true. It's true. I've also faced this where it's like there's maybe someone where I fear for some of the views that they had. There's only so much I can do from my point of view in terms of like
right.
speaking with them and telling them, sharing different perspectives. At some point I just had to be, go to their friends and be like, speak to your boy. Like
yeah,
They're not listening to me.
they're not listening to me, like, and if someone needs to keep this guy in check, otherwise,
yeah. And I've also heard some guys be like, "Oh, I can't imagine what it's like to have a daughter. Oh, if I had a daughter, having a daughter is so difficult."
I find that crazy.
How about you change the way we raise our sons? How about we change the way the sons are raised? Like, am I wrong for being born a woman? You can't say, having a daughter is so scary. How about you?
I'm suspicious of those men because I'm like, how do you view women that you're, so scared of having a daughter? Like,
what you've
think
done.
Raising a son is so easy and stuff. And they say that, but they don't actually raise their sons. They just let them do whatever.
They let them do whatever.
And that's why they think it's easy. It's not. It's not easy to raise anybody. But this attitude some men have towards daughters scare me.
Yeah, I have a bit of a scenario question that just came into my mind.
Oh, okay.
Because Loza, what you were saying just reminded me of the story of T.I. Remember where he would go with his daughter to check her virginity every year?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was just wondering, like, if you guys were like a healthcare worker, the gynecologist, like, what would you do in that position of like, there's this father that comes to me every year with his daughter to check her virginity. He does not bring his son.
Right.
He brings his daughter.
I'm reporting it to the police.
Wow.
The police won't help. Like, I'm really wondering what legal actions are there. I mean, one thing you can do is refuse care, but then can you even do that? I don't know, man.
There's a way to report. I mean, you don't have to report to the police, but there's definitely some legal action you can take.
Right? Like child services, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I might try my best to at least say like, oh, okay, can you at least step out of the room? I think it's better if I do it, like
I'll
with her
just
in private.
not even do anything.
Yeah, and I just not do nothing. I'd be like, girl, like,
say,
yes or no, give me whatever answer and I'll just take it.
And I've seen some case studies of women's health even in places like Botswana, where I heard of a woman that she was supposed to be giving birth, delivering a child, going to child labor, and the husband refused to have a male gynecologist. So she lost her unborn child.
Hey, wait a damn. Who allowed him in the delivery room?
Listen, please get out.
He was saying, I do not want anybody looking at my wife's vagina. So she will, until a woman comes.
Bleeding and dying.
So now your views have cost a life.
Cost a life. Too. Yeah. This is why these are not just topics that we're just meant to just ignore. We have to address them.
Mm-hmm.
We have to address them.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, we've said before, we've seen cases of sexual harassment, discrimination, disparities when it comes to pay, social determinants that affect disparities, gender determinants that affect disparities, and so many other factors that affect women as a whole. And the reason why this particular episode particularly addresses women is because that studies have shown that women have a much, much, much higher percentage when it comes to facing these issues. Like, men do face sexual harassment as well. But I think there was a study in the US that also found that compared to women, men face about I think it's around 20%, which is still concerning. Yeah. But in comparison to women face these issues on the daily. And we're going to have another episode for men sometime, maybe in the next season. Yeah. But this episode where I would really want to address that, like, the gender pay gap is not a myth. It's not a myth. More research needs to be done to address it 100%, particularly in low and middle income countries. And that's something that, you know, if the people that want to do the research,
yes, they're
listening. Not just women, men too. Yeah, like it's not only for women, but also for like the UN Sustainable Development Goals, aiming to achieve gender equality, aiming to address gender inequalities, also for economic growth. If you have more and more women in the informal sector or in unpaid roles, how is the economy going to grow? So not only is it beneficial, not economically, socially, politically as well, political will. If we lack political will, we're not going to get anywhere. So we have to look at it from all these different angles.
100%.
What about you, ladies? Do you have any more like final words to say?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, to just take everything you've been saying there, and if you're sitting there wondering like how it can, like, you know, show itself in global health as well, is the fact that, like, Jocelyn, you pointed out economic empowerment. Like, if we're acknowledging paid care work, like hopefully we're gonna get in Kenya, if we make that happen, then we're allowing women to have more economic empowerment. We talk about this a lot of the times. If I am more economically empowered, maybe I'm able to make more decisions around family planning. Maybe I'm able to make more decisions around my options for birth control. Like, you're
reproductive health.
Health.
There we go.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. You're able to, you know, actually be empowered to make choices for your own health. Absolutely. As a woman, which you don't always get the choice to do so.
Yes, I mean, some countries literally require the man to have a say in like reproductive health. Like, if the man doesn't agree, the woman cannot get birth control.
Exactly. You see,
you know, there's like legal structures that are also leading to gender disparity that
Exactly. And if we are in a household where at least we're trying to balance out our roles, this maybe is now going to allow both husband and wife to be able to pursue what they need to do in their careers, and at home they're able to balance out their works. If I want to go to medical school, yes, I know I can, you know, my husband got my back. We can go and I will do my medical school and my education. All these different things, guys. Gender equality matters for even now.
It's important from so many angles.
Yeah,
I think for me, the last part, we didn't touch on it too much, but we do need like women in these leadership roles in terms of like even in health research, because we touched on it a little bit in the first episode as well, where there's a lot of like women's reproductive health is under researched. There's a lot of things that are not understood. At the end of the day, people have their own biases when they come to research, and we need to represent all groups to reduce this bias, and that includes women. And when women are there making these decisions, you know, maybe we can get better contraceptives, because right now what we have is scary. We can get more understanding of like our own health. In clinical trials, women are underrepresented. So then, you know, the treatments are not the best for women. We need to, just as much as, you know, we talked about, we need Black people to be represented, we also need women to be represented. We need to be inclusive of women health.
I'm sorry, especially not just women, as in women in all spectrums, women in all spectrums, including trans communities.
When I say women,
women of color, Black women, brown women, we need that representation.
Disabled women,
yes, all of that representation.
We need it all represented.
Absolutely.
They said before, equity in health is unachievable if any group is left behind.
Absolutely.
No one cannot leave anyone behind.
No one left
Everyone
behind.
needs to be in the conversation.
So I think on that note, we can end it here. This is a beautiful conclusion.
No women.
So, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the World Health Investigation podcast. I'm Jocelyn.
I'm Edna.
And I'm Loza.
And we are 3 young global health professionals and your hosts for the World Health Investigation podcast. Please follow us on our socials on Instagram at WHI_podcast, Twitter at WHI_podcast. We have Facebook as well, and LinkedIn, World Health Investigation. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Click that subscribe button
now.
Right now.
We're not gonna threaten you again, but you know what to do.
Thank you very much for listening, and have a lovely rest of the week.